Welcome, 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 welcome to the Mind Fuck Podcast. Yay! Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. My name is Wonu Alishe. Sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. Welcome once again to the Mind Fuck Podcast. FCK stands for fun, compassion, and kindness. All right. Before we get into today's topic, we have this little tradition where I read a list that I titled Reminders to Being Human. It's essentially serving as a reminder to me, but hopefully serves as a reminder to you. All right. Have fun along the journey. Show yourself compassion. Be kind to others. Being complex and being simple can hold true in the same breath. Stay curious. Hold space for pauses. Hold space for not knowing. Never underestimate the power of silence. Nature has a lot of wisdom. Pay attention. There is power in we than I. If nothing else makes sense, my friend, come back to love. Pain is our greatest teacher. And the very last one, never underestimate your ripple of existence. Welcome once again. Now let's get into it. Let's have some fun. All right. I want to start with something simple that is often overlooked. Your nervous system did not form in isolation. No, it didn't form inside a bubble. No, it didn't form based only on your personality. No, it didn't form because you are strong, sensitive, disciplined, or even too much. No, far from it. It formed in a context, and that context had a tone. I mean, it had a pace, it had rules, it had exceptions, and it also had consequences, right? Culture was involved long before you had language for it. For a long time in my life, I thought my reactions were personal, right? I would say things to myself like, why do I tense so quickly? Why does my body brace when nothing is wrong? Or why does rest feel unsafe? Or why does slowing down feel like I'm doing something bad? Those were the thoughts that were constantly looping in my brain. I mean, I thought those were flaws of mine. I mean, I thought they meant I needed better tools. I mean, I thought I needed more discipline, more control, more regulation. But what I did not realize years ago was that my nervous system wasn't malfunctioning. No, my nervous system was simply remembering. Hmm. You see, my friend, culture does not just teach us values. Hmm. Culture trains the nervous system. I mean, It teaches your body what is rewarded, what is punished, what is safe, what is dangerous, right? And what gets approval. That's what culture does. And most of this learning happens before you're old enough to even question it. That is the power and the intelligence of our nervous system. Before you have words, before you can opt out, before you know there's another way to be human. I personally, in my life, I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria as a child. I mean, Lagos, Nigeria is a fast city, a loud city, a city full of movement, noise, urgency, and hierarchy, right? That's the norm there. There was also beauty, there was community, there was resilience, right? And there was also a very clear message in the air. I mean, you move fast, you don't question too much, you respect authority, you endure, you're tough, you have to be grateful, you have to just keep going. It's on the grind mode. Hustle, hustle, hustle. And your body learned quickly without anyone sitting you down and explaining it that slowing down was not neutral. It meant you were lazy if you slowed down. It meant you were ungrateful, disrespectful, or even weak. So, what did my nervous system do back then? It adapted. Not consciously, not intentionally, automatically. That is the brilliance of the nervous system. I did not learn safety through softness. No. I learned safety through compliance. I mean, I learned safety through reading the room, adjusting my tone, through staying alert, through bracing before impact, emotional or even physical. That's how I learned safety unconsciously over the years. And when physical discipline is normalized culturally, the body doesn't file it under love or morality. No. Your body simply files it under threat and consequence. Even when the mind later says they did the best they could, right? Both can actually be true, right? And compassion for the humans who raised us can be true, and honesty about what your nervous system learned over the years as a child growing up can also exist at the same time. You see, my system learned early that stillness was risky, that questioning rules came with consequences. I mean, that being too curious or too defiant wasn't safe. So my body learned speed. I mean, speed became intelligence, alertness became care, tension became readiness. And because it worked, right? Because it kept me out of trouble, it stayed. That's the intelligence of the nervous system, right? Now, fast forward in my life a couple of years later, I find myself in a different country, different culture, different language, right? Same nervous system, right? I joined the United States Army in 2002, and here's the thing, this part matters. this part matters, my friend. The army did not create my nervous system patterns. No, it validated them. There was already discipline reinforced in my nervous system, structure, rules, hierarchy, endurance, pushing through pain. That was already reinforced through the culture that I grew up in as a child. My body already knew this language. No. Well, yes, he already knew the language. So for a while, it felt like belonging, but it was belonging through survival. And that had a cost to my body. And that cost was chronic pain. So chronic pain for me, my lower back, it didn't appear from nowhere. Neither did my sleep dysregulation appear from nowhere, right? Neither did my constant self-judgment when my body couldn't perform the way it was meant to perform appear from nowhere. Do you see how culture impacts our nervous system, my friend? My nervous system was simply exhausted from decades of being asked to adapt without relief. Because at some point, the body always keeps the score. So when I was medically transitioned out of the military, right, something important started to happen, right? So structure fell away and there was no structure anymore. But my nervous system did not get the memo. Remember, context, my friend. It's always internal and external. And this is where culture shows up again, right? Because even when the external environment changes, the body is still living in the old rules. My body literally still believes that rest must be earned, pain must be pushed through, and struggle equals worth. That was the loop constantly playing in my nervous system and in my mind. So for me, when sleep disappeared, when nights of me sleeping became 2 or 3 hours long, it wasn't random. No, my system did not quite trust the quiet yet. My system did not trust the absence of orders. Remember, I was coming from the military. My system did not trust not being needed. You see, my friend, for a long time, I tried to fix that. Yep, I did. I tried routines, I tried techniques, I tried discipline again, but softer this time. Do you see? And I will tell you, none of it worked, at least long term, because my nervous system wasn't asking for better strategies. No, it was asking for new lived experience. That's what it was asking for. This is something culture rarely teaches us about. The nervous system does not change through insight alone. No. The nervous system changes through experience. Yes. Through repetition, through tone, through consistency, through safety that is felt, not explained. There's a difference. Do you see, my friend? Whew. See, I remember a conversation a few years ago with a mentor during one of like my lowest points in my life. You know, I was still dealing with chronic lower back pain. I was angry at myself. I was tired. I was barely sleeping. And my mentor told me something that initially pissed me the fuck off, right? Gotta be honest, right? And he said, take full responsibility for your life. That's it. And At that time, when my body heard that, my body heard blame. So, but later I realized something else was happening, right? He wasn't asking me to work harder. No, it was actually far from it. It was asking me to stop outsourcing safety to systems that had never given it to me. You see, my friend, culture teaches us where to look for safety. I mean, family, religion, institutions, productivity, achievement, you know? But at some point, the nervous system needs a different answer because that's not sustainable, right? It's not, if we have to be honest with ourselves. It needs to learn that safety can exist inside the body instead of outsourcing safety. And that's not a belief shift. No, no. This is a physiological one. You see, when I stopped forcing sleep and I started creating safety around wakefulness, things really started to slowly change. I mean, I'll always say this, it wasn't overnight, it wasn't linear. No, but gently things started to shift to shift. Things started to soften. I stopped judging my body for waking up at odd hours of the night. I stopped treating rest like a task. I stopped demanding outcomes and just let things be. That's when things started to soften in my life. And my nervous system very cautiously began to trust me, right? I mean, after so many decades, sleep came back in stages for me. I mean, from 4 hours to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 sometimes, but slowly, because safety is built through patience, not pressure. I'll tell you that from lived experience. This is why culture matters. Because many of us are trying to regulate nervous systems that were shaped in environments where regulation was not the goal. Survival was, compliance was, performance was. And then we start to wonder why our bodies resist stillness, right? Culture also shapes what emotions are allowed. I think this is very key. As I will speak for myself growing up in Lagos, Nigeria. For me, in some cultures, anger is punished. In others, sadness is minimized. In others, joy is restrained. Right. So the nervous system learns what's acceptable by watching surveillance, right? By watching what happens when emotions appear. Do you see? So your nervous system asks questions, or your mind asks questions like, does connection remain or does it disappear? The body keeps score, my friend, and that answer lives in the body. It does. Not the story, but in your body. Over time, over the years, it always lives in your body. So when people ask me now, Wonu, how do I regulate my nervous system? I don't start with tools. No, because there's nothing to fix ultimately. I ask questions like, what did your body have to learn to survive growing up as a child? What did your culture reward? What did it punish? What was never named growing up as a child? Those are the questions that I ask just to understand the context, because regulation without context becomes self-blame. And your nervous system does not need more blame, my friend. It doesn't. Your body adapted intelligently, right? Even the patterns you don't like, it's just adaptations. Even the one that frustrate the fuck out of you, it's just adaptations. They were solutions once when you were in survival mode. The thing now is they just have not been updated yet. Do you see the difference? Culture shaped your nervous system, but it does not get the final say. New lived experiences can teach your nervous system new patterns, but slowly, gently, through kindness, not correction, compassion for yourself. Do you see, my friend? Micro moments of safety consistently over time, not perfection. You see, if there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, my friend, is this. And I will always say this every time. You're not broken. You are patterned. And patterns can change when the body feels safe enough to try something new. And you don't change these patterns by force. You don't change it by fixing. You don't change it by blame or making yourself wrong. No. You change it by offering your nervous system what culture may never have given it. I mean, consistency, time, curiosity, compassion, kindness. You can give yourself that. Your nervous system did not form in a vacuum, my friend, and neither will its healing, right? It happens in relationships, or it happens in a constant relationship with your body, with your pace, with your truth. That's how it happens. And that's where the real work is, my friend. It's not in becoming someone else, no, but in finally becoming safe where you are in this moment. I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you so much for listening. And I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you.